Anyone proclaiming that orthotics are always bad for your feet are taking a way too narrow view on the subject. Sweeping statements like that are rarely true in medicine and health because our bodies are just so different, our genetics is so different. So in this video, I'm going to try and give you a more balanced view on the subject. We'll look at the current research, what that's actually showing, also why some people might benefit more from orthotics than others, and how you can keep your body strong, including your feet, while you're using your orthotics. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maryke. I'm one of the physiotherapists from sportsinjuryphysio.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment of any type of sports injury, all done via video call. Have a look at the description of this video if you want a link to our website. The argument that people usually make for why orthotics are bad for your feet in the long run is that they assume it will weaken the muscles in your foot, and that would make your problems worse. The problem with this argument is that it ignores the fact that the muscles on its own can't provide enough stability for the foot to function properly. It relies on two systems. It relies on passive support system as well as active support system. Now, your active support system are your muscles around the ankle as well as inside the foot. The passive support system is the shape of your bones, plus your ligaments, plus your plantar fascia. And if they don't function that well, then your muscles have to work a lot harder and they may not be able to provide enough stability. When we think of the shape of the bones, you get people with really flat-shaped arches and you get ones with really high arches. And the high arches tend to be a lot more stable than the flatter foot arch, like the ones you can see in this picture. And it's similar to what you see in architecture, that if you have a really well-shaped arch in your doorway, it doesn't need as much cement and things because it's inherently passively stable. Whereas if it's a flatter type arch, it needs a lot more stability from cement and other things to help support it. So if you've got a flatter type of foot shape because of the shape of your bones, you're going to have to rely more on your ligaments as well as your muscles to provide stability for that foot. But what now if your ligaments aren't providing enough stability? This is often the problem in people who are really flexible or even hypermobile. We are all in a range of flexibility. I don't know if anybody who's stepped into a yoga class would have seen the difference there, where some people can just bend double and others struggle to touch the middle of their calf or their shin even. And that is often not due to one being very diligent and the other one not. It's more to do with how flexible their connective tissues and their soft tissues are. Now, if you're on that spectrum of being more on the hypermobile side, then your soft tissue, like your ligaments, just don't provide as much stability because they give a little bit more than somebody who's on the more stable side. And if you've got the combination of a flat arch shape plus ligaments that give a bit more, your muscles are going to have to work a lot harder. And they may just not be able to provide the stability you need to prevent your foot from changing shape or your tendons and things becoming injured because they're now overworked. But what does the research show? Is there any evidence in the research that long-term orthotic use decreases your muscle strength in your feet and around your ankles? When we look at this, we've got to look at the muscles inside the feet, so the little intrinsic muscles, as well as the muscles a little bit higher up in the leg, like your tibialis posterior, tibialis anterior, peroneals, because their tendons cross different sides of the foot and the foot arch and help support that. Now, at the moment, there's no evidence or no study even that looked into how orthotics affect the intrinsic muscles inside your foot. This is not surprising because it's very difficult to measure what they do when you walk. Usually, the only way to measure muscle activity is by sticking an electrode on the skin that then picks up the electrical signal of the muscle contracting. The problem with the intrinsic foot muscles is that you're walking on it. So those electrodes are really sensitive. They don't like excessive movement. So you can't really measure it in that way. But several studies have actually investigated the effect of orthotics on the muscles higher up in the leg. So again, it's your tibialis posterior, peroneals, as well as your tibialis anterior. So when we look at this research and we look at the meta-analysis where they pulled all the evidence from all of these studies, we don't get a conclusive result. Some of the studies show that it actually helped the muscles contract better when you wear orthotics, and others show that no, it actually didn't help them contract better and maybe actually switch them off a bit. So what we can take from this is that, okay, fine, there's likely not a sweeping statement we can make about this that orthotics were always good or orthotics were always bad. We've got to look more at subgroups here. And the research does seem to show that if you look at specific subgroups that may have problems around the ankle and you give them an orthotic, that it actually helped their muscles in the long term. A group that's been researched quite extensively are people with chronic ankle instability. Now, usually this happens because somebody sprains their ankle and they get damage to the ankle ligaments to the extent where they now have an unstable ankle because the ligaments can't do its job properly. In these people, there is strong evidence that actually the muscles around their ankle then has a delayed onset response. So they don't react as quickly as normal. And especially the peroneals, which is meant to stop your foot from turning over as you walk, then doesn't switch on as quickly. So then you end up spraining your ankle continuously. Now, when they looked at the effect orthotics had on these people, they found that actually it improved the muscle function and those muscles contracted more quickly and better when they gave them supportive shoes plus orthotics to wear. So this is why I'm saying making a sweeping statement of orthotics is always bad or always good is really not that useful. It likely depends on your situation and what's going on around your feet. I can summarize my advice about orthotics in 5 points. First is, not everybody needs orthotics on a permanent basis, but you may benefit from it in the short term or the long term, depending on your feet. So sometimes it's really useful to help you get over an injury. For example, if you've got plantar fasciitis or tib post tendinopathy, or you've sprained your ankle. In all those cases, the system that is actually meant to support your arch and your foot is injured. So it can really benefit from a little bit of extra support until it can manage that load again. Now, if you have a good passive support system, like we've spoken about, you're likely able to wean off the orthotics then. If your ligaments are quite flexible or your support system is just not up to it, you may benefit from actually wearing your orthotics on a more permanent basis. So that should be decided on a case-by-case basis. The second is, it is not true that orthotics are bad for your feet or bad for your muscles. In fact, they can actually protect your feet in some instances, especially thinking of people where the tib post tendon has gone through several injuries already and they're now getting the shape of their arch is starting to change. Getting good orthotics, combining it with exercise as well, but the orthotics is really important, can help support it that you don't get that flattening out of the foot any further. And exercise alone is usually not enough in those cases. So it can actually protect your feet. Thirdly, foot strengthening is good, but whole body strength is actually better. So everybody can benefit from strengthening their feet and getting their foot posture better. And I've made videos about that in the past, so have a look at the description of this one. I'll put the links there. But it's also important to look at the rest of your leg, because sometimes weak hips or glute muscles, as well as core, can cause your legs to turn in excessively as you walk and run. Sometimes it's just habit, to be honest. And if that happens, it actually places more strain on the ankle and the foot and causes it to also turn in excessively, despite the ankle being quite strong or the muscles around there being quite strong. So it's really worth checking your stability on one leg and then looking if you've got to strengthen things there. Now, I have made a video where I demonstrate how you can check your hip stability, and then also made videos about strengthening exercises for your hip muscles. So have a look at the description of this video. I'll put a link to those there as well. The fourth point I want to highlight is that you can actually help strengthening your feet by varying the amount of support you give them depending on the activity you're doing. How does this work? Well, at the beginning, you likely need to wear your orthotics most of the time, but then you do your strengthening exercises and your arch control exercises, and you get good at controlling your arch, and your muscles get stronger. So for me, I don't need my orthotics anymore if I walk around the house, or I just go for shortish walks like 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers even. But if I spend all day long on my feet, especially if I'm going to carry a heavy backpack or I go running, I do need my orthotics, because otherwise I end up with things like tib post tendinopathy, because there comes a point where my muscles say, yeah, we can't control this anymore. We're tired now. And then my ligaments just doesn't want to pick up the slack. So for me, I have definite moments that I understand when I need to wear my really supportive orthotics, but in other cases, I don't really need them that much. There's also interesting research that's come out specifically on people with plantar fasciitis, where it's shown that the researchers used a minimalist shoe combined with an arch support, so not just the minimalist shoe, but combined with an arch support, to help people strengthen their feet. And this actually led to really good pain relief for these patients in the long term. What I will say is these studies weren't very big and there aren't many of them out yet. So we've got to take the research results with a pinch of salt. It may come out that if we do bigger studies is not such a good result, but it is something that could be of interest. Now, if you're wondering what a minimalist shoe looks like that has arch support, because it sounds a bit contradictory, have a look at the description of this video. I'll put links to examples of those in there. My final point of advice is whatever you do, do not make sudden changes. So even if you have a good passive support system and strong ligaments and you've got a good shaped foot, going from wearing orthotics on a regular basis to not using them at all in a very short period of time can actually cause your muscles to overwork because they've not got enough time to adjust to it all, and you may end up with injuries. So whatever you do, make those adjustments really slowly over time, and first reduce the support you have during low load activities and short activities, and work your way up to higher load activities until you've got that control. So if I have to summarize this, please don't get paranoid because people are telling you on the internet that orthotics are bad for your feet. They're definitely going to make your feet worse. They can protect your feet in certain instances, and they can actually help your muscles work better in other cases. Not everybody needs the orthotics, and some people can wean off them, but it will totally depend on your genetics and your situation. So it can be really useful to get an opinion from a physiotherapist or a podiatrist, anybody who can look at your specific case and explain to you why you might need orthotics and what is possible with regards to weaning off them or not. Brilliant. Hope you found that useful. Now, if you've got any questions, please ask them in the comments. If you need more help with an injury, you're welcome to consult one of the team via video call. Link is in the description of this video. And please remember to hit like and subscribe. It really helps our channel. Take care.